President Cyril Ramaphosa has announced a joint seating of Parliament for this Thursday, the 15th of October, where he will present the government's COVID-19 recovery plan. Joining me to discuss this plan and possible alternative solutions is John Endres of the Institute of Race Relations. John, welcome to the CRA channel.
Thank you very much, David.
So John, please could you paint us a picture of where the South African economy is today?
Well, I think as has been reported quite extensively in the media, South Africa finds itself in a very, very difficult position at the moment. We lost about 2.2 million jobs during the lockdown crisis, and they were added to the very high levels of unemployment we already had before that crisis. We've also run out of money. In other words, the government is planning to spend about 1.8 trillion rand this year. It's expecting to collect about 1.1 trillion rand in revenue, leaving a very large hole for it to fill through debt. And finding that debt is also going to be more and more difficult as South Africa has been downgraded to junk status, meaning that when we borrow money from lenders, it is much more expensive than it was before. And we are at a point now where we will be spending about 20 cents out of every rand collected on repaying our debt, which means that it leaves much less money for the government to do other important things like invest in infrastructure, or even pay social grants or public sector workers' salaries. So we are in a really difficult spot at the moment, and it is the time to come up with a plan to fix these problems, because if we don't take decisive action, the hole we are in will only get deeper.
John, what do you anticipate on Thursday in terms of the details of this so-called economic reconstruction and recovery plan?
So we haven't had sight of the plan yet. It will be presented by President Ramaphosa on Thursday only, but some details of the plan have been reported on in the media through presentations that the president did to the ANC, so internally. And it seems that the plan will be what we would have expected to come out of the government, which is a plan to spend our way out of trouble. In other words, to formulate projects that rely very heavily on infrastructure spending and on job creation schemes in order to solve the problems that we are facing. And keeping in mind what we mentioned just now, that we don't have money, one of the greatest challenges to this is going to be where the money is going to be found to do this. And the reporting we've seen so far indicates that that question is being fudged. In other words, it is not clear where the money for these plans is going to be found. What we also see from the reporting so far is that the plan seems to be quite complex, involving different phases and focus areas, trying to work on the green economy and food security and the tourism sector and infrastructure and mass public employment programs. So it's all very grandiose and very ambitious, but we think it will not be tied to funding, and it will also not be clear what the KPIs will be. In other words, what are the timelines? What are the deliverables? So it looks like it's going to be a very grandiose but quite vague plan that is unlikely to produce the results that the government expects from it.
So now, John, you recently authored a report, which we'll link to in the description below, which sets out some alternative policy proposals in the post-COVID-19 recovery phase. Could you give us some detail about some of those proposals and also how they differ to what we anticipate on Thursday?
Yeah, I think the main difference in our plan is that it is a plan that is not expensive to implement. In other words, we are cognizant of the fact that the government has run out of money, that the tax base is eroding, that our ability to borrow money is also eroding. And in other words, any plan that we do formulate would need to be one that does not take too much money and that is able to get the economy growing and thereby generate new tax revenues. Our plan focuses on 4 key areas. It says that what we need to do is spur growth, and in order to get growth, what we need to do is attract direct investment, maintain and expand infrastructure, create a climate that is favorable to job creation, and also implement a program that allows more South Africans to benefit from empowerment programs than what we have at the moment. At the moment, it's a very small group of people that is benefiting from BEE, maybe 15% of the Black population, but 85% of people are being left out in the cold, not being benefited and they are really stuck. And these are the things that we need to address very, very urgently.
So, John, those are the 4 elements that are required to unlock growth. But what are the actions that need to be taken? In your report, you highlight 3 so-called bitter pills that the government must swallow. What are those exactly?
So those 3 bitter pills are firstly a very firm commitment to property rights, because we can see, if we look at economic history, that countries that do not protect property rights fail to prosper economically. And therefore, this is really an absolutely essential condition. And it is one that the government is currently placing in great doubt with its pursuit of plans such as expropriation without compensation, prescribed assets, and also the nationalization of the health system. So the first bitter pill is guarantee property rights and take everything off the table that threatens property rights. The second bitter pill is an end to race-based policies, and that would include Black Economic Empowerment, or BEE, and affirmative action, and to replace this with a system that is meritocratic and race-neutral, and that will allow broad sections of the population to benefit from economic growth and find a place in the labor market, which they're currently being denied. The third bitter pill is a wide-ranging liberalization of the labor market. At the moment, lots of people are locked out of the labor market because the labor aristocracy is reaping the benefits of being in work while keeping people who do not have jobs out of work. And so we say we need to make it easier for people to get into jobs, even if that means that it's also easier for them to be fired if necessary. We must reduce the barriers to entry for unskilled and also young work seekers especially.
John, thank you very much. That's all we have time for, but I certainly hope that your report will be widely read this week as we build up to the President's address on Thursday. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, David.
If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like. Remember to subscribe to the CRA channel if you haven't done so already, and join us tomorrow at 7 a.m. for the next video. Until then, take care.